Good morning, you bad, beautiful bitches. It is Wednesday morning. Bit of a real estate market update for you with H1H2. You'll recognize a friendly voice on the show here, though. MikeyV from Kiss 108. Sit back, relax. This is an OH podcast. Kudos to you guys, by the way. Not only monsters in the real estate game, which we'll get into, but also being in a space creatively, like you being a syndicated iHeart radio host is like insane. Yeah. You know, we had Ramiro from 96.9,
legend of Boston.
Oh my God! Yeah. There's a couple voices. Like when I hear his voice, when I hear your voice, and when I hear
Billy Costa.
Exactly. Yes.
There we go.
Like I don't even have to look. I can already like just hear it and be like, yeah, that's Mikey.
It's funny. Even like I'll be at a restaurant sometimes because on the radio, besides social media, they don't really see your face. But some people are like, "Are you your voice? Are you from?" But they can never like. Sometimes they're like, "Oh my God, it's MikeyV," but they're like, "In my car."
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, I am your ways. Turn left now.
When I shower, I hear your voice.
Did you get that often? Like people will see you, but then when you speak, they're like, oh,
but I do think social media, as you know, has changed the game where it also now is a visual medium.
Yeah.
It's not just what's on the radio. It's also, so it's not just your voice. It's also being seen a lot on social media.
I know you and I were talking about this weeks ago. How hard is it? It's, in my mind, it seems like you were one of the first in your position to bring cameras into the studio and actually document everything going on the set, which seemed like to be a bit of a, you had to kind of pull the thread on that with like.
I mean, I think at first I was, we knew, or I knew that videos was the future of all medium, right? Yep. So like everybody wants to see everything nowadays, and I started hiring my own video guy, Danny, who we all know, but he would come in and actually like put cameras and mic us all up, and then that would basically bring the radio show to Instagram, to TikTok, to YouTube, because that's just another way for us to get consumed, right? If we're just niche into this one thing in radio and think that there aren't other ways for people to consume our medium, that becomes a tough world.
Totally.
So I was very adamant about like every studio needs a camera, every individual on the show needs a camera, and then it has to be edited in a high quality way, right? We are iHeart Media. We are the best of the best. We are Kiss 108. There's nobody bigger. And our social media needs to also represent 100% the best of the best.
And good for you for I call it like the blockbuster effect, to not blockbuster yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, the story of Blockbuster, we all know by now, but Netflix comes to them, they're like, hey, buy our little company.
And they're like,
no one's going to stream movies. Boom. I think there's one Blockbuster in like Alaska.
You're absolutely right. And the CEO ended up going to like 7-Eleven, and his whole thing is like, how do we expand to other places and adopt technology as opposed to Blockbuster, who didn't adopt technology and they ended up going belly up.
Is that the future of radio, do you think? Like, do you see it? When I was talking to Romero on this, he kind of what we're doing now, like the podcast space is obviously like a big space to be in. It's obviously super saturated. I think there's, on the podcast app right now, there's like 200 million current shows. So unbelievably saturated. But what do you think, where's radio going, and what do you think, like, what's radio look like in the next few years?
I think you got to hit on the nose there. So the barrier to entry to make a podcast, right, is almost nothing.
Right.
It's probably, not exaggerating, $150.
Right.
And I can get a microphone.
I think that's spot on.
like a USB microphone. So I think, again, radio is always a trusted source, right?
Yep.
So radio is somewhere where everybody can go. They can all meet there. They can all consume the same thing. Everything else in the world is niche consumed.
Right.
Like you never can go to school tomorrow and say, or go to college or school or work and say, did you hear this on that podcast?
Right.
Because everybody consumes on their own time.
Yeah.
But you can go to work in the morning and say, hey, did you hear what Billy and Lisa said this morning? I can't believe that this happened in Boston. So it's one of the things that can be consumed by the masses and bring everybody together, but I think it needs to continue to expand to everything. So like it still needs to be a podcast. It needs to be like Kiss 108's Instagram should and will be like scream just Boston and everything Boston and celebrities and all that. And then it also has this other channel that nobody has, the radio, that's been trusted for years.
100%.
That's not going anywhere. So I don't think radio's ever we're not gonna wake up tomorrow and the radio's gone. But I think that radio will always be a huge arm or a lever that, like think about you, like this podcast is huge, your social media is huge, and then if you were also on the radio every day, it's just another lever for you to pull. It would be like this new social media came out that nobody's on but you.
Right.
And everybody has to come to it for you. So
I'm a huge believer in that. Like I even think, to some degree, I think even like print mail can work. Billboards can work. Sure, they don't get the eyeballs they used to. Email marketing can work. They don't get the open rates they did early 2000s, but I think you're right.
Yeah, I think it's fully encompassing of everything, right? So now we live in a world where all those things need to happen. We still send out mailers from Kiss 108.
Yep.
We still mail out for H1H2 nice bottles of wine like this with our logos on it.
Speaking of which, we might this is a perfect
That was a good transition there. Huh?
That was good. See, professionals here.
I'll let you know that Kiss 108, we don't send them alcohol.
Yeah.
For the teenagers and soccer moms, but no.
Our 14-year-old listener has a bottle of wine.
Yeah, see, this is. So I want to get into a couple things. Early days of not only you and the whole stories you were just telling with one of the greatest, potential guys in media ever. But before that, how did you guys partner up, and what am I looking at here? What is H1H2?
This is
I crack this thing.
Yeah, so it's got a little tiny bit of swag in there, but
H1H2. It is tough for a guy with hair like that to have a hat,
dude. So we had Friday beers in here, and we did the same thing. They had hats and stuff. I put it on. I literally go. I have the I look 11 with a hat on.
Yeah.
Ready? Watch this transition. Ready? Prepare to be dazzled.
It is perfect hair. I don't know if we want to mess it up.
And I have a violently thick head. Watch this transition.
It's a golf hat, though.
You're going to be like, oh, yeah, Kevin was a cool guy. Until he put a hat on, and then I was like...
He does look younger.
I look like I'm lost at Six Flags.
Has anybody seen my mom?
Mom, is that unbelievable?
I mean, it does do something. It doesn't do a lot for it, but the hair is what does it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it started out of necessity, actually. So, funny story. Obviously, Mike's in radio and whatnot. We go all the way back to. Freshman year of college. We're both DJs. We're, doing our thing and whatnot. We've always been connected one way or another, but we're never super close. We always stayed in contact, though. That was like one of the things that we always wanted to do.
And we stayed in contact a lot because Joe is the class president. Okay. So when I would get in trouble,
I'd
be like, Joe, I did it again, Joe.
Oh, you did.
Wow. So were you always getting out of trouble since Joe's like...
He helped. He pulled that lever
as
much as he could.
There we go. Joe.
Shout out to Stonehill College.
What a guy.
Yeah. So Mike and I were always connected. Like we were just on different sides of the tracks. So just put it that way. Mike would, they would have this thing in college called like the CDC. It was the Center for Disciplinary Committee.
Yeah.
And there was one student, one faculty, one athletic staff, one this, one that, and I just so happened to be the one student. And just about every week we'd go in there. They'd be like, "All right, so the Vinci problem is back. A girl threw a table through a window." And people were falling out of a second-story, house, and I'm like, okay, so can we table this till next
Please
week?
Don't be Mikey.
In my defense,
it was a good time.
It was a good time, but I never did anything incorrect. I was never breaking rules. No. It was just stuff because I was DJing an event, so I would charge your dorm $50 that day, and I would come DJ your dorm. And then things would happen, so it was more like...
Things would happen. Yeah. Look, guys, I'm not a cop, all right? You don't have to lie to me.
No, really, I never was like the issue. That was the kind of what always helped me out a little bit.
It's too long ago.
It's never the DJ. Can't come back. That's the problem. It can't be.
No, but shout out to Stonehill College. They gave us both a great experience.
Yeah, we definitely did. So... Again, we did different things. Mike ends up out in Indianapolis. He's getting connected to a number of people who own, certain properties, restaurants, nightlife, and so on and so forth. I'm talking to Mike, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm starting to dabble in real estate. I'm down in Florida in 2013, and I'm buying up properties down there and condos." And Mike's like, "Hey, instead of you doing the actual buying and hold, why don't you give the money to somebody who actually knows what they're doing, and they'll give you back a return." And I'm over here, I'm like, wow, this great processy here. Although it's been around for hundreds of years, to me, this is the newest thing.
Yeah.
And so Mike introduced me to a couple people here. He introduced me to people in Boston, Rhode Island. We were in Pittsburgh for a while. And eventually, we got to this place where I was like, screw it, I'll do it. So I throw $25,000. Literally, like, I lob this thing over the fence.
Yeah.
There's very little paperwork. It's super sketchy. And all of a sudden, like, a check comes back the next month, and a check comes back the following month, and the following month, and the following month. So I call up, my buddy, because Mike's already involved in it. I call up my buddy, Josh, who's now one of our managing partners. We co-found the company H1H2, and basically, like, it was a mistake, the name. It was Home 1, Home 2, because that's all we wanted to do is put money into Home 1, go to Home 2, go to Home 3, go to Home 4. So we were just like, we just needed an LLC. So it was H1H2. That was in 2018. Within 6 months, we had raised close to about $2 million. And we were funneling this money into different parts of the country to different real estate developers and basically collateralizing against their portfolios. And then that revenue started to roll through. Now,
Gotcha.
I still worked full time. Mike was still working full time. He couldn't get away from me even if he wanted to. And so eventually what ended up happening was like 2021, but probably early 2020, we started connecting because Mike had his own portfolio. He's got dozens of houses. He's still got tons of houses here, double families, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
He really is, like, you look at him from a media standpoint, but he's a mastermind when it comes to real estate. And so we started to work on a couple deals together. And at some point I was like, hey man, I'm like, just come over and like work here with us. And he's like, no, he's like, my dream is radio. Like, that's what I'm good at. Like, that's my goal. I'm like, but you could still do this as well too. Like, you can leverage the radio, but instead of like calling it out on your show, like, you could still do this and do that at the same time. So we started him off as like a tester, like for 2 months, just work with us. And like at 6 months, like, we'll give you a portion of the company if it works out. I think we got like 2 weeks in and we were like, we can't function without him.
Oh, hell.
And so he became a third partner immediately.
Bringing so many clients in, so many people that were willing
investors,
to cut
developers,
checks,
like so on and so forth. Because the crazy part is, and Mike, feel free to talk about it, is like the nightlife scene that Mike is so very well connected to. A lot of the customers that are high net worth individuals or developers, they're in that scene.
Right.
And they know him and they trust him as well too. And so that's kind of where, Mike kind of became like, just like TikTok is your funnel, like Mike ended up being our funnel and not like in the transactional state. It's because he's built these great relationships and because he is so genuine, it became a really easy conversation for people to have with him. Oh, I know that you're doing real estate. You tell me about it, as opposed to me going out and like hawking and trying to get people and soliciting them.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, for me, I was always so busy doing nightlife, doing the radio thing, which is like my bread and butter, right? And I would always meet developers that needed money or guys that wanted to invest, but I never had the business background, right? Like, I understood business, but never the time or the resources or the brain to do the business side, and that's where Joe.
They're dropping abbreviations
excels.
on you, like, what's the NOI of this deal here? And you're like, NO what?
Like tequila? That your tequila?
Yeah.
But
How much alcohol is
so
that?
Joe and Josh and the company were able to really bring in the business side of it.
Right.
They were both working full time in software sales, and they're the ones that brought up business. I would never do that. I was more the guy like, hey, if you want to get involved, like, I'll connect you right to the guy. And, and like, I don't want anything from this or whatever. But then they were able to help me bring the business side to it and then really help others grow things and grow developers. At the point now where like honestly, we don't even really raise that much money or need to raise. We're more like almost like placing money. And helping developers grow. But
it's like a maintenance play now where, so like from last year, 2023 is when I actually went full time. So I had, a job in software. My business partner, Josh, had a job in software. And so for 5 years, because we've been around now 6, for about 5 years, every dollar that we got, we funneled it right back into the company. And there was a reason that we did that. Yeah. And it's one for preservation, because in 2020, if everybody remembers, COVID happened and nobody was building anything. So developers were put in a really difficult spot. But none of our investors ever felt the pain. Why? Because we had this place, stacked with cash to the ceilings. And so even though you have these like dips along the way, what we try and do, especially for our investors, is to make sure that those dips, they don't feel them. They just get their nice steady return. But it's a really interesting space to be in like with real estate right now. Like, you're starting to see rates start to come back down, so it's beginning to be a good place to buy. Inventory's still low because you got people in at like 2.875%, like me and Mike. I know, it's a good time to buy.
That's like, if you look at it now, I think it's at what, 7%.
It's about 6.6, but yeah, like jumbo loans are probably closer to 7 and whatnot. It'll probably be different by the time this thing airs, but yeah.
It seems like interest rates is like crypto. It just goes, you know, especially, which it seems like, granted, this word has been tossed around so much, it's ridiculous. It seems unprecedented how many times it's gone up, because they raised it, 2023, they raised it, was it 8 times? Something like that?
Yeah, and there were like micro movements too. So like a quarter of a point, half a point, and so on and so forth. And that broke a lot of banks.
So someone can cut you guys a check. Do you guys still take investors currently, or do you guys?
We do.
We do. It's more on like a capital call basis.
Okay, yeah.
So like we like to have a project lined up. Before it was more of like an evergreen fund. So we're constantly raising capital. Now we're trying to do it more purpose built. And that's just to make it a little bit easier from like a paperwork standpoint.
I'm picturing like Cardone Capital, you know, where money's coming in and you'll take it from anybody, and then depending on what they give you, they'll get X%, you know, each month.
That's how we do it. But we do annual. So, if you were to invest certain amounts of dollars into our thing, you get your principal and then your interest back.
Gotcha.
And it's not financial advice, so this is my disclaimer. So this is not financial advice, but we do work with accredited investors. Right. So you do need to be an accredited investor, and then from there, like it is relatively turnkey. So we have 100% payback. We can never say like guarantee or the SEC will be knocking on my door, but for the most part,
your legal team.
Yes,
It's killed.
Mike did it again. He threw another one of those DJ parties and was just yelling out guaranteed to everybody.
Yeah. That could play, huh? Have Mike DJ at some sort of new construction site.
Yeah, there we go.
Reeling in the blue collar guys, you know? Could work. Wow. That's a space I am so fascinated. It's interesting, like, this is why on the few occasions that Mike and I have met up in person, like I think it was 2 years ago we were at committee. Yeah. I think it was your fiance's
networking event.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
oh shoot, I was there.
Damn.
So I missed you outside at the bar, right?
There's just like I love getting around people that, like I was saying, we started this thing, that think so creatively, and are always looking to innovate, you know. And like you going from, I mean, both you guys going from, you know, president, troublemaker, DJs, real estate, you know what I mean? It's like that evolution is something that, unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people realize they need to do on a whether it's an annual basis or, you know.
But I don't think Joe knows it, but when I first met you, or even years ago, you made a ton of money. I don't know what you made, but from buying furniture.
Yeah,
on Facebook
I heard that on the Gary Vee episode. Yeah. It was crazy. I didn't realize you did that. The couches, right?
Well, all furniture. Yeah. It was, you know, I graduated Plymouth State, big party school up there in the mountains.
It's good.
You know, graduated in 2017, $60,000 in student loan debt. And then I remember my loan was with DCU, so I go in person. And when you graduate, you don't even know
what that is.
I didn't know interest rates when the moment you take out that loan as a freshman.
They're whacking you every year. Yeah.
And then here's the craziest.
The compound kills you.
So I got asked to, I'm trying to say this in a tasteful way. I got asked to speak at Plymouth State, at the college I graduated from.
Stuff.
And I love Plymouth State, right? Lot of cool connections there. The craziest sentence that was ever said to me from Plymouth was, when you graduate, they go, you know what, when you graduate, a gift to you, take 6 months. Don't pay us back for another 6 months.
But they're charging you interest.
To accrue the interest for the 6 months.
So it becomes tough, right? So, and this is all financing, but then your first almost probably 3 years of payments are just getting caught up to your principal. So now you're paying back interest. I mean, it's very similar to how the government did the small business loans.
Yes,
exactly. And what was your rate? Because your rate was probably astronomical too.
It was, I believe it was 8.2.
Yeah. So at the time, you were paying more than somebody would have paid for their house.
Yes. And it was, I remember I would take the interest and I would divide it by 30. So in a month, it was like, I think it was like, at times it was like $11 a day in interest.
Just to wake up.
Is that crazy?
Yeah, that's crazy, yeah.
And then you graduate and they're like, oh yeah, good job. Take 6 months.
I do think, I say this all the time, I think at this point in my life, I fully understand real estate and loans and leveraging dollars and all that, but like that's something that should be taught in college.
Oh, absolutely. Like financial literacy.
The crazy thing, you don't even know. So I went to college to be a math teacher. So I majored in mathematics. So I went all the way up to Calculus 7. But if I could go backwards, instead of even taking Calculus 4 and on, and learn this stuff, like when am I going to use calculus? Like just saying.
Ever.
Like I literally went to summer school at Framingham State on top of Stonehill to get extra math credits.
Right.
But like, why it needs to be taught how to leverage money,
right?
How interest works, how you can lose money doing that stuff. No, you don't understand
what's good debt. The craziest thing with student loan debt, like the three of us could open up a business this afternoon. It goes bankrupt tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
We can declare bankruptcy.
Yep.
The loan gets dropped.
Yep.
If I die, granted I'm debt free now, but if I had my student loan still and I die, that debt doesn't go.
It's predatory.
It gets passed on.
And what's the collateral for the bank? The collateral for the bank is you.
Yeah.
Whereas like for a house, the collateral is the house. But in this particular case, for your student loans, you are the collateral.
Right.
They expect you to work the rest of your life in order to get that money back.
Right.
That's why financial freedom is so important to try and achieve, and everybody's trying to grab it. But I mean, you obviously grabbed it by the cahoots with flipping furniture and everything else.
I went with my mom. She walked me to DCU because we're gonna figure out how, like, now it's my loan, so I'm gonna figure out how this all works.
Yeah.
And we sit down. The lady's like, "You'll pay." It was like $284 a month for 10 years, and then you'll be good to go. You'll be debt free. And I was like,
doesn't seem nice.
I was like, yeah, and I don't even think that math even works. I don't even think that gets me out. I'm not like calculus 7, but I'm like, I don't know if that does it. You know?
Well, that actually doesn't make sense at all. How much? $60,000 now because you had $3,000 a year.
Right, 60 grand.
So
she said 284.
So you're only paying
month.
30 grand. So you still would have 30 grand plus all your interest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, and so once I heard that, I got in the car and I was like, furious.
Yeah.
I was like, I was mad at myself for not asking their questions as a freshman.
But you don't know.
But you don't know. You know, you felt like you get like the wool pulled over your eyes. You were like, wow, I can't believe like it's 4 years of a great time, we just had our wedding. All my college buddies were there that I met. Like, it was an awesome.
And they're like,
time.
I'm still paying my debt off.
And yeah, some of them still have it. Yeah, and so to your point from earlier, I was like, I got to figure out a way to get rid of this.
Yeah.
And that was the couches. It was literally, if I had a bar stool, if I sold these bar stools for $80, that night I log in, $80 gets sent, to my bank, and then from my bank it goes over to the loans.
Good for you.
So
no prepayment or anything like that? They didn't like whack you with that? Like, oh, you're paying me back early? Like,
no. I kept getting emails being like, oh, you don't have to pay. Or your next $284 will be due. Let's say it's January. They'd be like, March, your next payment's due. You know what I mean?
It's like a marketing cycle.
Here's the crazy thing, though. I could mind blow you real quick. So just think about this. So because debt, and you said it earlier, debt can be good and be bad debt, right?
Right.
So you paid that off quicker. And you were paying, you said 8%. I think it actually probably would have been a little bit lower, to be honest.
In my head, it's like, I think it's 7.4.
Yeah, because usually student loan debt isn't crazy high. It all depends on, I don't know what year you went to college, whatever. But I can make an argument right now saying that you should never have paid that off.
I know right where you're going.
I can make the argument that saying, okay, so you paid off $60,000 at, say, 7%. And so therefore, you get that money back to them. They gave it to you at 7%. Where if you took that $60,000 and you invested it, and just say made 12%.
Right.
So now you made 5% off of their money.
Right.
So now, so you really could have not only paid off your loan, but also profited off their money. So there is a argument to say you should never have paid that off. You should have invested that money and kept it in your pocket. But everybody has a different feeling towards debt.
And like to your point, like your Calc 7 level of math. You guys, honest, like this should be, maybe this is something the three of us do. We should figure out a way to get financial literacy out to. So I'm on a call. I'm looking at a 104 unit storage unit in Plymouth, Mass. It's still
Storage are great.
Still on LoopNet right now. This literally has happened in the last 24 hours. And I'm talking to the
self-storage is hot right now.
So it's 1.4 million, 104 units.
Yeah.
It ends up after your cash flowing, it was like $1,400 a month at the end of it.
That's great.
And I was like, I told the broker, I was like, look, for me to put $300,000 down. Okay. No, for me to put $400,000 down on this thing, and only get 12% or only get $1,200 in cash flow a month.
So how I would do the math on that, right? So what I evaluate my stuff on is cash on cash return.
Yes.
So how much money did I have to give up to make? So if you're saying you're making $1,400 a month, so that times 12, you're talking probably $16,000 a year. So then you do $16,000 divided by that 400,000, you're getting smoked. So that's like 3%.
And here's where I talked to.
But he does have depreciation. So the depreciation of self-storage is pretty good. But does it make up for that amount of loss? Probably not.
This is where I get the math flipped on me. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do the deal. It would take at that cash flow and $400,000 down to be 20 years to get your your down payment back.
Yeah.
And this guy goes back to, I'm talking to this guy Jared who works for Grant Cardone. We were back and forth on Instagram.
Is he the pilot?
No, that's
Jared's like his
Jared's
sales
like
guy,
his
right?
He's like right hand man. So we've been back and forth on DMs for years.
Yeah.
So I send him this listing and I was like, here's my thoughts. Back to like your Calc 7 math. There's my level of education, and then there's these guys. He goes, what's the cap rate? And I was like, it's 9.4%. He goes,
9 is
so he's like, he does this quick calculation on his calculator. He's like, so that's $277,000 you'll in that this property will appreciate in.
Yeah.
That you could then turn around and take a loan out on the bank for $277, interest free, and put in a different deal. And I was like,
well, that's.
I was gonna say, finish your thought, Mike, and then I'm gonna go. Okay, so that's
I figured this would be right up your alley.
So this is money multiplying. So if you want like a hot clip, this is what a lot of the like rich and wealthy, and sometimes a lot of our customers do. So let's just say that you go and buy a house. House is worth $1 million. Let's just say you're crazy. You put down half. You put down like $500,000. There are those savages who are out there that do that. Or you buy a house for $1 million. You put $200,000 down, but you had like $100,000 worth of capital improvements.
Right.
The home is now worth exponentially more because you changed the bathroom and the kitchen and all these different things. You then go out, you get a HELOC, right? HELOC like nowadays is like 8% or something like that. When I got my last HELOC, it was like 4%.
Wow.
So at the time, like I bought a house, I pulled out like a $200,000 HELOC. You can then take that money, the $200,000, you can then bring it over to JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, something along those lines. You can then take that $200,000 and now put it in a diversified portfolio of stocks. And guess what? On that $200,000, you can then pull out an LAL, which isn't 100%, but maybe it's something like $150,000. So now you have that money that's working for you in the house. You have that money for you that's working for you at a financial institute that's probably going to make you anywhere between 8 and 12% a year. It's going to cover the interest, but again, it's the growth module that we're looking at here. And then you can then take that money again, and it's freed up. You can use it for whatever you want. And we have people who take money out of their house, then put it into JP Morgan or Morgan Stanley or one of these big banks, and then take it again, and they'll let us use it and leverage it, and we're bringing them back, a pretty high percentage that covers their interest rate but gives them enough of a spread. And as you can imagine, as those stocks grow, as their home appreciates in value, it's the multiplication of dollars.
Out of curiosity,
that's amazing.
Out of curiosity, just because we do it all the time. So do you understand have you ever heard of a HELOC or how that works?
I have, yeah. So
do you know the math on that, like how it works or no?
So I use the Bigger Pockets, their toolkit.
Their
calculators. So that's how, like whether it's BRRRR or mortgage or rental rates or. So I don't know the actual calculation. I'll just plug it into their.
So for anybody's listening though, so how it really works is, so say you own a house for $1 million. This house is worth $1 million. It would sell tomorrow for $1 million. That's what it's appraised at.
Yep.
Say you owe $600,000 to the bank, right? So you're paying a mortgage on $600,000. So most banks on your $1 million, they will give you 8%, which easily is $800,000. But then minus whatever your mortgage is.
Yep.
So they're saying, hey, we're willing to lend 80% of the value of this house minus what you owe on it. So $800,000, then minus $600,000, you're gonna get $200,000 as like a huge credit card. From the bank at an adjustable rate. So right now, as Joe says, 8%, but as the rates go down, this is an adjustable rate, so it will go down. So now you take that $200,000, you invest that $200,000, you make more, just like your student loans, you make more than the 8% on it. You're making money off the bank's money. And the crazy thing is, your house value is still going up, and they're not taking any whack of that. Like buying a home is the only time that you can invest somebody else's money, but also have all the growth for yourself. If I went to a bank and said, I don't know, I'm going to go to the casino tomorrow, like give me $1 million, I'll give you 20%, they're going to be like, go pound sand. But you can put it into, or even stocks and bonds. I can't go to the bank and say, hey, I'm going to give you $200,000, give me $1 million, I'm going to go buy Apple stock. They're going to say, no, you're not, but you can do it with a house.
It's crazy. And one thing that we should make note of is that it is super important to read the documents within your HELOC, because some of the HELOCs and some of the LALs that are out there, they do have stipulations as to what you can use the money for. So there are some banks out there that are like, oh, you can really only use a home equity line of credit to add value to your home. And then there's others who are like, I don't care if you pay off debt or whatever else. It's merely like, we're okay with going with a higher leverage point because you have a good credit score and you pay back on time.
Right.
So it's important to like read the fine print, very similar to like your story with your student loans, where you want to be able to read that little gray area down at the bottom where it says terms and conditions.
Yeah.
And you open that up and you realize, I may not appreciate this.
Literally on the day I paid off my student loans, I had this, his name's Casey. I used to work with him at a tech company I worked at in Boston. He ran this little club called Total Financial Domination. And I'm like, oh, I just paid off. He reminds me a lot of you guys. Yeah. Like if he was in this room right now, he'd be like,
TFT.
He'd be rock hard. Like, oh yeah. I come in the office, I'm all chipper. I'm like, oh, I just paid off my loans. He's like, says the same thing. He's like,
why?
He's like, exactly. And I'm like, and I'm at that point, I'm consuming probably 2 hours a day of like heavy Dave Ramsey content. Oh, God. like anytime I'm picking up a couch, I got the Dave Ramsey podcast blaring, And I'm like, oh, Dave would love this. Yeah, and then I hear exactly what you just said, and I was like it's interesting our like levels of financial education, and right as you think they're in a good spot, you even for the storage unit thing, like this guy Jared flips it on its head, and I'm like, oh.
This does seem like a good deal.
Because I'm looking at it selfishly as like, I just want the cash flow.
Yeah.
Not, I was like, cap rate, screw cap. And then I'm like, oh shit, there's a whole nother level to what I even understand, in this
Keep
whole
in mind though, you weren't wrong. It's what you want may be different than what somebody over at Grant Cardone wants. And so there's a lot of people who we work with, especially because we give people exposure to real estate without having to actually own the real estate. If you want to go out and buy your own real estate, you can make a ton more money than we could ever give you.
Yeah.
But if you want true passive income, i.e. the money goes in and then 12 months later the money goes out, like there's a lot of people who are retired or semi-retired or they have their job. We work with a lot of CEOs. Those guys those men and women are so ingrained in their work. They don't have the time to evaluate a storage facility. They don't have their time to look at a multifamily or to look at like, oh, this, 15 CapEx deal. They don't have that, expendable time. And so what we do is we help to give them their time back. So how you were looking at that deal was absolutely correct because that's how you wanted to look at it. And right now, all you want is the cash flow. So if you can find a place where you can put your money in that can provide you with better cash flow, maybe it doesn't have the depreciation element. Maybe it doesn't have the appreciation element.
Right.
Maybe you don't have to do a HELOC later on down the line. Maybe you're looking to do no limits law like we were talking about earlier. That's your next outside of selling.
Yeah.
But like that's okay to have that be your goal. But yeah, the financial literacy thing is
it's amazing. What do you guys think? Just to bring it up to like. I think in the last, was it 2 weeks? Was it Fannie Mae passed you can get 4 units, 5% down?
Yeah, as long as you live there.
What's the, as long as you live there.
On occupy.
Would there be any downside to someone doing that long term? Like, is there any sort of gotcha clause?
Well, you can explain more too, but like one thing is the less you put down, the lower your cash flow is going to be.
Right.
So obviously it just makes sense. The more money you're getting on a loan, but then again on the flip side, the more money you keep in your pocket, you can multiply that. So now but again, that you can't multiply because I can't own or occupy 4 units, 4 houses. But I could put a little bit less down, cash flow less, and then use that other 15% that I would have used and do another investment.
Yeah, right.
Those are always deal specific. And for me, like when the news came out, everybody, it was like the gotcha content, right? It was like, oh, like, you're bringing all these people who are like, oh, we could do that. We could put 5% down on $1 million place. It is whether or not it will cash flow. And especially areas like Boston, for example, you have so many old multifamily homes. What people aren't taking into account is that you're now enabling people who like really only want to put 5% down, which typically means that they may not have the means to put down 10, 20%.
Right.
And so what I envision may happen is a lot of people getting in over their heads with like, oh, the roof went, or like, oh my God, there's an issue with the foundation and now we got to jack up the building. It's going to be $100,000. Those types of things happening to unfortunate people who just wanted to be landlords and like kind of live the American dream and have their friends rent out the 3 other rooms in the 4 family.
Totally.
So that's like a big, like, there's a lot of like warning signs for me around that, whereas everybody will tell you like, oh, that's really cool. This is house hacking. Like, you're doing the best thing in the world. I'm like one of those people where I'm like, don't lose your shirt over it. If it's a great deal and it pencils out really well, great. But if you can't put down 10 or 15 or even 20%, like you couldn't do it, you choose to do 5, that may be a sign that like there could be some maintenance issues that could come up that could potentially put you upside down.
Right.
It's good. Yeah. I had myself in a situation when I was way younger. I'm the first 2 family that I ever bought. I mean, I was super young. I got my brother to do it with me. It was actually in Everett, Mass. Right before the casino was coming. I was like, I really want property over there. And it was a great property. It was a 2-family. I lived in half of it. I updated the half that I lived in while I rented out the other half. But then, when a tenant had a child, which we have lead paint laws here in Mass. Right. Which is, obviously there's a reason why we have that. But so she basically stopped paying rent until I de-leaded. At that point, I didn't have, like Joe said here, $30,000 to de-lead or whatever it cost to de-lead it. So I was like, oh, I am screwed. So I was over. But at that point, I didn't have the knowledge that I have now. Right. We're talking 12, 13 years ago. And I was like, well, I'm selling. Right.
Did you get out?
So I freaked out. I remember calling my mom, like, I had every penny that I owned in this house. Like, I was like, my shirt was there. Yeah. And so I lawyered up, and then I, sold the house, but contingent that tenant wouldn't live there anymore. Because, again, she shouldn't live there. I should have de-leaded, or it should be sold and she should move out. Right. And so I get it sold at a great profit because, again, Everett was really hot at that point. So, and at that point, so say for a round number, I'm making $100,000. Right. I'm like, well, I've never even made $100,000 a year in my life at this point. I'm like, wow, this is working out great.
I've done it. Eating lead paint now? It's not even that
bad. Dave Ramsey's calling you out. He's like, you did it, son. So, you just did it.
But I had to get this tenant out. I remember telling my lawyer, like, I was like, I'll give this lady $50,000 and I'll take 50 and be happy. Right. And just to get her out, my lawyer was like, well, don't start at 50, you end at 100. How about you start at 1 and maybe you end at 20? Right. And ended up paying $2,000 and helped her relocate. Wow. But it was a win-win, right? So I helped somebody that shouldn't be living there relocate to a new place. I sold the house to somebody else who now has it. But you can get in those situations very tricky. And if you don't have 30 grand on the sideline or 50 grand on the sideline or 10 grand on the sideline, and you don't have the knowledge, it can get very stressful. I mean, that was the most stressed. I've gotten fired in radio in Detroit. I was more stressed when that was happening.
Wow. Yeah. We got to get into that firing as well, but what...
let's go to the bad things.
Yeah. What's more... So we live in like there's especially in real estate, and each cooking, fitness, they all have their categories, but there's right now the amount of content online in real estate, it's like coming out of a fire hose.
Especially in Boston.
So you got like, exactly. So you got, and even like the bigger players, you got like Dave Ramsey, dead is dumb, cash is king. And then you got Grant Cardone. That's like Dave Ramsey's dumb. Yeah. Dead is king, cash is dumb. Cash is trash. And then you got start with 1 unit, and then you got other people being like one unit will get you killed. Like the more units, the safer you are. Yeah. Where's like I find myself somewhere in the middle of kind of all that, like taking like golden nuggets from everybody.
Yeah, I think every argument's going to make sense. I do think the more units you have, if you have a 4-family, you're more likely to be okay because if you lose 1 tenant, you're fine. If you have a single family home, you're going to struggle. Again, us as a company, H1H2, we don't buy and hold properties. Yeah. As individuals, we have buy and hold. But I also, and you can go on too, but I think I don't like to tell anybody to do it this way. I like to, hey, this is how I've done it. Right. But everybody has as I grow in life and learn life, real estate or relationships or children, like people are going to have their way of living life. Like me and Joe, we live life a lot different, but nobody's right or wrong, right? Totally. I think people should do what you're doing, right? Get knowledge from this guy, get knowledge from that guy, get knowledge from this guy, get knowledge from their parents, and then be like, hey, this is my decision. Right. Because you're going to always want to make your decision work. But if it's somebody else's decision, you're going to be like, oh, see, it was wrong. I told you, Joey and Mike said this. But I think that's a true thing in life, period, is take all the knowledge and make your own decision.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, I would say stop looking for the silver bullet in real estate. Yeah, people need to
get rich quick.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's not going to happen.
It is nauseating, the amount of content that's out there that is confusing to the everyday buyer. For the most part, what works for you doesn't work for somebody else. So you got, and I can't remember where I saw it, but it's an entire list of the Dave Ramseys, the Grant Cardones, even like the Gary V's and whatnot, like when they've thrown their hat into the ring. it's like, Grant Cardone says, don't buy a house, right? But buy houses that you can rent.
Right.
And then you have somebody else where it's like, own where you live, rent where you don't. And then there's other people who are like, rent where you own and, own where you don't live. And like there's
a hobo that's like, don't do anything.
Squat. It's free.
Squatters' rights, everybody.
I have a cardboard box, and this works for me. And that's totally fine. But yeah, I think that there's too many, because I get sent, like being the owner of a real estate investment firm, I do get the traditional friend who will like shoot me something. They're like, tell me about 1031 exchanges, right? Which we don't have enough time to talk about 1031 exchanges, but it's like, tell me, like, so I can just keep delaying the taxes until I die. It's like, yeah, like if that's what you want to do, like, and there is a way to do it. You put it in a trust, you pass that trust down to the kids, and now all of a sudden, like the kids don't have to pay capital gains taxes.
Right.
But like the amount of work that goes into that in order to try and skirt around the rules, it's incredibly challenging. So it's like, find out what works for you. You don't have to have a real estate empire. There's so many different ways that you can get involved in real estate and have exposure to it without actually needing to own it and have to deal with any of the headaches.
Right.
But you hit the nail on the head. There is so much content around it.
You guys should almost start a little like classroom. Maybe H1H2 goes into like some sort of e-learning. We're
going to do No Limits Real Estate.
There we go.
And
maybe we film it here. Yeah. We rebrand these. H1H2.
We already have Plymouth State and Stonehill College, so we're good.
Boom.
Boom. There it is.
Exactly right. Yeah, because it's confusing out there. How did total flip here? How'd you get fired from radio?
My quick story is obviously from Framingham, Mass. Went to Stonehill College. My first radio job was in Ithaca, New York, and then I went to Indianapolis, Indiana. At that point, my boss, who was there in Indianapolis, me and him became like best friends. We were very similar in age, still good friends to this day. He got let go a year into me going there. He got a job in Detroit, Michigan, a bigger radio market, and he hired me in Detroit. So I went to Detroit. I was working for him for a year, and this is a true story. So at that point, so imaging or production for a radio station is like the stuff you hear in between songs or promos. I had a skill set where I could do that. Our imaging guy had quit. I was doing the night show. So I was like, I'll be a good employee. I'm going to do both. I'm going to do the imaging just to help out, to hire somebody, and I'm going to do my show. And my buddy, who at that point was a good friend, texted me, hey, let's meet at 3:30.
A.M.?
3:30 p.m.
Okay.
A.m. was
you got the night shift. I was like, I don't know. Radio guys, hours.
So he was like, let's meet. So my brother's also a legend in radio, been doing it for longer than I have.
Right.
I called my brother. I'm like, they're going to give me a raise. I'm going to do imaging and my night show. How much more money should I ask for? And he gave me a number. He's like, but anyways, it's job security. Just do it anyways.
Right.
So I go into this meeting, and my boss / friend at the time was like, let's go to the GM's office. And I was like, that's how two people in a room, one's a GM. And
2v1.
Yeah, I was in there, and they basically said, we're making a change at nights. And I said, why? And she said the worst quote to me. But one is she said I was too rhythmic. I was like, I don't even know what that means.
Rhythmic.
I'm like, I don't feel like
we've seen you do the Macarena 8 times. It's too good. We can't have it.
Rhythm's a good thing.
You belong on TV.
But so they tried to retain me as the imaging director doing the production.
Oh, okay.
And at this point, I'm 24 years old. I'm the only person in a major market at my age. And she said, we think maybe you're good on air, but you'll never be great.
Oh, look them in the camera right now.
Yeah, he said,
just look them in the camera. How much
air,
are you kicking yourself right now?
But you'll never be great.
How much are you kicking yourself?
I took that quote in her picture, and that was on my desk for like 8 years, saying,
I love
maybe you're good on air and never be great. Again, her point, or what she was trying to do as a manager, now that I manage people understand, she was trying to like almost fearful like you're not going to make it this. And then she said, but you're good at imaging and you're going to be great at that. So she's trying to get my head as a young person to be like, oh, you know what? I do want to do imaging. But at that point, I'm like, I don't want to be in a studio producing stuff. I want to be on the mic, and I want to be me. I want to be MikeyV. And so I was like, yeah, I'm out. So I declined that job and then went on a new job search and ended up getting a job in Tampa Bay, Florida. But as I was taking that job, was when Kiss 108 gave me the job back here.
That's crazy.
Well,
What's her name?
That quote, believe me, I know her name. I know her everything.
That's so...
And I'm not going to say it, but that quote of maybe you're good and never be great was the most motivation I've ever had in my life.
I 100% can see that, and it's amazing to see you go from that to now absolutely crushing it. And then what popped into my head as you were talking about that, I wonder if the universe put you with that story with a man by the name of Pat McAfee in touch, who at the time was just punting for the Colts.
Yeah, so that's a whole nother story. But first off, on the point of me getting fired, it really was the best thing that ever happened to my life, period. At that point, my father was sick back home in Boston. I had no ability to leave I was working for a company called CBS. I was under contract, which means I can't go take a job in Boston, even if I wanted to. I get fired within 6 months of that happening. Kiss 108 has the first opening in 18 years. So I would never been able to accept that job if I didn't get fired. So my worst day of my career, looking back, was the best day of my career.
That's a silver lining right there.
It's a crazy story.
That's crazy.
And then I got to move home and be with my father for his last year of his life. So like I'll cry about it, but how crazy is that in life that I remember sitting there crying over getting fired, but that was legit the best day of my life. Better than anything I could ever have happened to me.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Talk about everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
You know? Wow.
But so then the backstory now, because you're asking about the Pat McAfee thing. So before Detroit, I lived in Indianapolis. Pat McAfee was the punter for the Colts, a franchise player for the Colts, one of the best players on the Colts. He was always an outgoing, very brilliant guy, and he loved media. So I remember he would always come on my show. We would make videos together. We were watching the video that was trying to go viral, making a
Hurley, we'll have to clip that in here. We'll have to find that in your dark file.
But he kept telling me, I want to do media. I want to do media. I don't think the NFL is for me. And I remember being 23 and being like, I make $32,000 a year. You make like $2 million. Keep kicking that football.
Shut your mouth.
But he had the vision of, I'm going to do media. I'm going to do it my way.
Right.
And man, he quit the NFL in the prime of his career as a franchise player to chase. There's not a lot of people that would leave a multi-million-dollar job and then go over here where you have zero income.
Right.
You start the next day with nothing besides you believe in yourself.
Yep.
And Pat did that. And Pat's now become, I think, arguably the best sports broadcaster in the game.
Of all time.
But he did that by betting on himself.
Right.
So you look at him every day and I'm like, he did it all by himself.
Yeah.
And he left. Like, it's so hard to leave that multi-million. People will never have a multi-million-dollar paycheck in their entire life.
Right.
Let alone leave one
Right.
at the prime of your career. He could have punted for 20 more years.
And to two different industries. It's one thing to be like a Tucker Carlson, you know, and make millions and pivot. It's still media, still broadcasting.
Yeah.
But to go from an athlete, to now on the mic.
Think about it, his only broadcasting experience before that was just having fun and jumping on my little radio show in Indianapolis. But then he knew he was going to be that good at it. I mean, he had a vision and he did it.
That's
He wasn't like Julio Jones either, like the top wide receiver. Like punters don't exactly get a ton of glory here. Like kickers don't get a ton of glory. So in this particular case, like he was starting from scratch.
Yeah.
In the entrepreneur life, I bet if you asked him, it can be incredibly lonely.
Yeah.
So doing it yourself, it is like the Pat McAfee show. Like it's got to be.
He had a couple mean hits as a punter. Mean hits.
Oh,
he does.
I'll
never forget.
Fantastic. Yeah.
But the one thing that he understood, I think, before almost anybody in media did was social media.
Yeah.
So at that point, Instagram wasn't even out at that point.
Right.
So Twitter was out, and he had the vision that social media was the future. Again, I think right now social media is the best broadcaster in the game.
Right.
In music radio and sports radio and media period, I think his clips are the best. But he would buy commercials on our radio station that just had my voice saying, follow Pat McAfee on Twitter, follow Pat McAfee on Twitter. But he had the vision that this was the future of it. And
which is amazing to see that. So it's easy. Hindsight looking back, it's always so simple to be like, oh yeah, obviously social. But at that moment, like what year is this?
so I graduated college, this is 2011. Wow. So we're talking 12 years ago, yeah.
It's like buying Bitcoin at $100.
Right. Yeah.
Like the hindsight.
I'm always fascinated to see how someone can have that vision. Like,
and at that point, Twitter wasn't even a visual medium. I think you could post pictures, but it wasn't like Instagram now where you could like broadcast or YouTube where you could have shorts and long form.
Right. Yeah. See, that's so interesting. Is that how you guys linked up? He saw that you were doing a show and reached out because you had the show, or did you guys know each other prior to that?
I think it was more from just being out in clubs.
Okay, yeah.
Like what Joe said earlier. No, but we would be out in the same places.
Right.
We both became friendly, and he was just always a good dude. Actually, oh my God, now that I look back on it, I met him, the first time I ever actually met him was at the Indy 500.
Oh, here we go.
I hosted Indy 500.
Oh, wow.
So
They're
I
going
hosted
real
both years.
fast and real left, right?
Do the racers announcement?
Wait, but I hosted inside turn 3, which is called the Snake Pit. You're talking 400,000 people. You couldn't even see a car. I'll show you pictures later. So it's like just a big party, to be honest. Like
Tops off.
I mean, I got another story about that. I'll tell you a second. But Pat came on stage. Pat came on stage with me and punted a beer into the crowd.
Oh, my God.
And then after that, we left together and kept hanging out that night.
Okay.
That was the first night we actually hung out, and then we had a really fun night that night.
He would never punt a celly, though, right? You drink
not
and maybe the empty can.
I mean, oddly enough, it is a Selly celebration. So
That's true. That's true.
Might be only appropriate.
But the empty can.
If we could get Pat to punt the celly now, I think it would be good for everybody.
That would be amazing. Yeah. Wow, we should set that up. Yeah, that would
You
be
got a
incredible.
FaceTime in there, Mike? Just pull out the phone.
But yeah, that's actually the first time we met. And then I think it was more going out. And then I think he knew in his head that he wanted to do media. And it was a way for him to kind of see what was going on.
Right. That's incredible. I got goosebumps when you said the first opening at Kiss 108 in 18 years happened moments after you. Like, that is so crazy.
Our morning show had been there since we were in the school bus.
My whole life.
In the morning.
So, and then Romeo was one of the best natural talents in radio.
Yep.
He had been on Afternoon Drive for, I want to say 25 years.
In jamming, right? 94.5?
Ramiro was over
Romeo.
And then a guy named Jackson Blue, who, again, Jackson Blue's, I think, one of the most talented night jocks to ever be on Kiss 108. I mean, there's so many legendary ones, but I remember growing up listening and recording. When I was doing a night show in Ithaca, I was recording Jackson's show every night, and then I'll go back and cut it up and listen to it and try and imitate him, because in my mind, he was the best of the best. But Jackson moved on to another opportunity, and that's was the first time that there was ever an opening in 19 years.
Right.
So.
I'm noticing a trend with you, and my second question to this is going to be, what would be your advice to folks that want to get into the media scene?
Yeah.
But I'm noticing with you, it seems like your work ethic was always to, I'm going to do as many jobs here as possible to the best of my ability, and almost like just overperform to prove yourself, and then they're like, "Oh, Mikey's our guy."
It's almost like a sport, right? If you can do more things, I mean, and to be honest, I have to give props to my brother because he's the one that kind of told me that. So when I was at Stonehill, I was interning at Kiss 108, and I was already doing on-air shifts in a place in New Bedford at Fun 107, and I was like, "Dude, what should I intern in?" He's like, "Learn production." He was like, because most of the on-air guys don't like production, but if you can do on-air and production, you're way more valuable. So I learned how to do imaging and production. So my first job in Indianapolis was a night show and production.
Right.
Because they needed a guy that could do both. So I could be actually at that point average on air because I was so young. But if somebody could hire me and hire one person before hiring two people, it was a win. And then to go full circle on that, really, I think there's 2 or 3 reasons why I got the Kiss 108 job. One actually is a guy who now works for Big Night, Joe Mazzi.
Yep.
He recommended me.
What a stud.
He's the man. But
Love that guy.
He got me my internship when I was in college.
Oh, no way, really?
And then when they were looking for a night guy, he was like, you should look at this kid, Mikey V, Frankie V's little brother.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But that Jackson Blue, the night guy, had left. Also, the imaging guy at the same time had quit. So they could bring in me, who, again, maybe I wasn't ready for that big job, but I could do both, and they could like kind of like train me if I was a little green on the on-air side.
Right.
So I came in being able to do the night show and imaging, and then I started imaging our sister station, Jam 94.5. So I was doing more production than I was on air, but the on-air thing was my passion.
Right.
But that was kind of my means to my end.
And your most recent is you guys have the afternoon show, right, at Kiss 108, which is on Monday through Friday, 3 p.m., right?
Monday through Friday, 2 to 7.
2 to 7.
And the really cool thing about that is, I was able to add my brother.
Yep.
So my brother does a radio show as well. He's the one that got me into radio. He's the reason I'm in radio. He's my best friend. So I was like, in our dream, we started a podcast here at Big Night. Yeah. And that was how we got our boss's attention. Like, hey, these two brothers should probably do something. I had the opportunity to add my brother, and then I think the best female radio talent in the country, Gianna.
Totally.
Because she had been DMing me for years.
Her personality is amazing.
She's great. Top notch. She's going to be even bigger than I think any of us three can
100%.
say, which is great. And that's the goal, right? But when she was DMing me, she was DMing Kiss. I went to a Dirty Water event, and she came up to me and shook my hand. She's like, I'm going to be the next employee of Kiss 108.
Oh, she Tom Brady'd you.
Yeah. And I was like, and I remember showing up there.
Best thing this organization's ever seen.
I was picking my fiance up, and I was just like in a hoodie, and like I was like, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
You have those
Crocs on. Oh yeah, 100%.
So I was like, and I was like, this is random places picking up, and I was like, wow, that was a pretty aggressive move. So then, when we did get the budget, I was sending her Instagram to my boss. I don't know, for 6 months to 9 months. I was like, whenever we have the opportunity, this is the one we need.
Has to come in, yeah.
But so now it's me, my brother, and Gianna, and it's the perfect little formula. So now we do afternoons on Kiss 108.
Gianna's so good that she actually runs social for
H1H2.
Get out of here, really?
Yeah.
It's all in the family. Yeah.
Oh my god.
When I heard this story, I'm like, she is that person that'll like not like get up in your face, but she's like she knows what she wants. Like she'll go and get it.
Right.
But talk about what radio needs. It really needs somebody like that is relatable to the person on social media, right? So like she was already doing, or her TikTok's actually pretty big.
Yeah.
But she was doing like just content that was influencer, like content, like not your content, but like content in that world without the radio show, right?
Right.
So then you give somebody like that a radio show. That's what radio needs.
Totally.
We need to continue that.
Do you think I'm like slowly starting to see that trend happening? Like I know, actually, I think Billy and Lisa are big on this with Nessun bringing in influencers to start this talent pool.
They have their new thing that just started.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like I think that's the facelift radio needs. Folks like yourself in there that continue to. I think this whole episode has been on innovating. Yeah. You know. How can you innovate yourself
but I think that, again,
every year?
You could say that about every industry in the world.
Yeah.
Right? If you just keep doing it one way because that's how it used to be done, no matter, I don't care what you're doing, you're not going to be successful for 100 more years.
Right. Yeah.
So I think everybody has to innovate. But I think radio, we definitely have to innovate. But I think we're doing that, and I think it's actually all starting at Kiss 108 for the country. I mean, I think you can look at other stations, they emulate how we do our social media stuff.
Even that's your setup over there. Like there's something to put a face behind the voice, you know?
Yeah.
And then for consumers, it feels like, okay, you're in my car already. Yeah. If I can watch you guys, I'm in the room.
Yeah.
And we're like, I'll have to send it to you guys. I got these new glasses. These I don't know if you saw it. It has a blinking light on them.
Okay.
So when I came in, it was filming.
Oh, wow.
So it's filming the
that's awesome.
Like a POV, just testing them out, seeing how they.
Are those the Snapchat or the Ray-Ban ones?
They did a Ray-Ban and Meta did like a collab together.
Right.
But I'm always like, so we met with the Selly guys the other day, and they're like, I'm like, you guys need to do more content sampling.
Yeah.
You know, in-store sampling.
Put on your glasses.
And so they're like, so they do it, but it's so awkward to have if you have a camera over here and a camera behind my shoulder. Yeah. The customer is like, is this like a cartoon trap? Like a net's on the floor, you know, a net catches them. Yeah. But I'm like, if you guys have, and they have tinted ones, they have regular reading glasses, you know.
It is scary.
Do you have them on?
Yeah, I
pull
do.
them out.
The question is, what did we say while he was recording us with his glasses?
That's the first place that I went to. Is I was like, oh shit! Like, I hope I didn't say anything terrible.
Try these out, and then these.
Are they charging in that case?
So they charge in the case.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
And then you take them out.
That's super cool.
AirPods.
And when you put them on, you'll hear it connect. And I'll actually show you the. I can sync the
video. Oh, that's killer. You can't even tell.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even know that you had them.
So give it a second.
And if you order now, it's only 3 easy payments.
Yeah.
Of $199, most likely.
And I'll sync let me sync these over. I'll show you the footage.
And they always blink on the front so that people know that you're
just when you're recording. So if you on the brim of it.
Were you recording when you walked in? I think I might have noticed, but I would never think it's a camera.
I did notice.
So click on the.
That's
right
why he's
side.
the business guy. Like, shut up, Mike.
Yeah. Can you hear? Did it connect at all? Did you hear it say anything?
I don't know. I can only hear your voice screaming in my eardrums.
True.
Mike.
So click this button on the top. You'll feel it right above. Just hold it down for a little bit, and you'll hear it go.
Yep, got it.
And so now it's filming. So see the white light in his.
Yeah, I do see it.
So now you're filming POV MikeyV. So I was saying to the guys, I was like, you guys, let's order 2 pairs of the regular glasses. Killer. Both of you guys wear them. You know, looks like you're wearing reader glasses.
Yeah, this is great.
But I'm gonna test out so I was with them getting coffee, and I'm gonna test out. Imagine if the 3 of us, I think these are the stepping stones to where the industry's going to go to where we don't even need mics or cameras.
This is another crazy thing, though.
You know?
Being the radio guy or because, I mean, obviously, iHeart, we follow every single rule there is. I can't record you without your knowledge.
And I think that's only in the state. So
in public spaces, doesn't it have to do with something? Like the fact that like you were in a public space, so
by that public space, and then it varies by state. So like New Hampshire, you can be in any public space and film. I forget the legal term for it, but it's a one-way recording law. Meaning, if I have my own permission, I can record in a public space. Mass, to your point, is, I believe, different. It's two-way recording. So I have to say to you, hey, I'm recording you, and you have to give me the thumbs up. That's where it gets a little, you know?
It's a very, how it works in the radio is if you call us, I believe, you know, you're kind of, you've joined the company. If I call you,
right,
I need to say, hey, this is
okay, yeah. See, it's, because I'm interested with
Don't quote me on that. That could be incorrect.
Because imagine, so we get, not you guys are naturals, obviously, but we'll get guests that the lights, the cameras for the first time, like we had an author on here that's like never been in front of a camera, like potentially very, you know, intimidating.
Yeah.
But imagine if you could we each have a pair of these on.
It's a nonchalant conversation.
And we're just on the couch. And it catches
Is there audio?
Built-in audio. Yeah. And the mic is right there.
Oh, that's cool.
So and the clarity is insane.
Oh, that's cool.
I heard a thing from Jeff Bezos that made a lot of sense. So with Blue Origin, his company, his sole focus is to get people to have, he believes there'll be more people living in these big space stations and they'll come down to Earth to vacation. And he says when he says that, it seems so crazy. But he said, when I built Amazon, there was already steps in place like the payment processor. I didn't have to make my own. It already existed. I didn't have to worry about shipping because the Postal Service exists. Yeah. And like there's things in tech that are going to be the stepping stones
to that step
that people walk on to then, for him, Blue Origin is like, you know, 100 years out, you know. But like these, I think, I saw these come out and I was like, wow, these are a step. Because VR will definitely be a huge.
I was just saying, VR is another thing. I think at some point we could live in a world where we don't even like leave.
Yeah.
Like just in VR.
And I mean, we're one step. These being a camera and audio, we're a step closer to maybe one of these screens is comes back to our eye and we're seeing.
That's what we see.
Right. You know, like it's.
Did you bring those on vacation?
I literally just picked these up.
Okay.
Because I saw them and I was like, I got to test these things out.
That would have been cool. Like, when you're checking out that volcano that you were mentioning.
Totally.
Like, here's the pool. Here's the beach.
And at least for like in the people in the social media game, like it's so counterintuitive because if I film in public and if you catch me filming in public, it's like Ashton Kutcher's rule on Punk'd. Like if he ever got caught punking someone, he's going to end the show. Yeah. I think that's how they like ended the last episode. Yeah. Same for filming content. I will delete my TikTok if I'm out like this and we're doing like maybe it's Ashley's accent or we're doing some relationship thing and someone's like, like I caught you. Like if you see how the sausage is made, which is counterintuitive.
But you've never been. I feel like it's such a unique thing that and you have so many followers. There's never been somebody walk around Boston that's like the girl with the accent and
that happens a lot, but we're never actively filming. You know, like they know it's us.
Yeah, but you're never making.
I got caught. A year ago doing a morning alarm on my roof, and this girl in the adjacent building was on her roof and was filming me and like zoomed all the way in. And I was like, and ever since that moment, I was like, but it's counterintuitive because you put it out, it's gonna get, you know, hopefully millions of impressions. You know, so it's like
it's gonna happen
once it's made. But there's something there's this. But with these, I don't feel like there's no.
You could be in the moment with those, like the viral. Did you guys see the viral like Paris moment for 2024 when the ball dropped?
Oh,
there were,
yes,
like literally tens of thousands of
people. That's a good point.
I am so glad you said that. Yes.
And so with those on, like you can get the moment.
Think about a concert.
A
concert is everybody like this.
Oh God, drives me crazy.
If everybody could wear that, it would be like, hey, I got it. I can go home tonight and post it.
Yeah,
that's actually a good point.
I'm so glad you took it. I didn't even. That's a perfect point. Yeah, I was thinking from the
There's
creators.
So many applications for
like
those.
I have my own cameraman on my eyes. You know.
Yeah. I'll say this too. Like now, I'm like taking it even further. Maybe I shouldn't, but the real estate side of this, like when we go and look at a property, a lot of times, like I'll take out my camera and I'll start to record, but I'll miss certain details because I'm doing this and I'm not like looking at what's right in front of me. And then you get into the property, you're like, there was actually water damage over there, but I was too busy
go back
trying
and
to
relive the moment. Almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Wow, you could relive the whole concert.
You could.
The Jingle Ball giving the.
Isn't that crazy?
That'd be cool.
Imagine a partnership. So Ray-Ban and Meta partnered for these, and imagine Kiss 108 or Jingle Ball partners with Ray-Ban.
Yeah.
And then you got to relive that moment of your life.
Yeah.
And it's POV. It's at how you actually absorbed.
Or even if you had like your wedding.
Oh.
Like relive your whole, like once a year on your anniversary, you want to go back and watch or be in your shoes for that wedding. Kind of cool thought.
I feel like
is that crazy?
Buy one of these for November.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, they're all right. I want to make sure we plug you guys up. We have to have you guys on again and again and again.
Would love to.
We can go for hours.
Yeah,
we could.
So we definitely need to figure out.
You're talking to two former he talks for a living, most literally.
Well, there's so many there's so many areas I want to like. We have to have you guys back, and we'll have to do like specific segments. Like we could do a couple hours just on financial freedom. You know, financial literacy. Like, there's so much.
Yeah,
you guys have so much wealth of knowledge that, like, to capture it, we got to figure out some sort of.
No, I love the channel too. Like the platform. We'd actually talked to In Boston Magazine. She was like, "Oh, I want to do like a column and do like finance with Joey and Mikey." And we had talked about it for a little bit, and the hard part is like it is a magazine at the end of the day, and like does it get to as many people as it needs to? And there's less of the collaboration because it's more of us like talking at a magazine. Where in this case, like you can ask questions. Like the storage facility stuff was awesome because people come across those opportunities, they don't know what to do with them. So like I like this medium much better than I like print or something along those lines.
Yeah, and like for the storage unit one, at 28, my brain right now is like in 8 different. It's like. Focusing on the show, focusing on managing social, and then but I'm like, okay, I need to figure out the longevity play, for like I love that's why I love real estate so much. Outsider looking in, who just is like a student to the game right now, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be 65 being like swipe up for my new Meta shades, guys, like which I love it now. Like I live for. We'll jump in a Zoom with whether it is Celsius or we just partner with Factor, this meal nutrition company. Like
the meal plan company.
You're in those rooms and you're with some of their execs and they're like, we're just bouncing ideas off of each other of what we can do. I love that. Yeah. But I'm like, all right, we're God willing, gonna have 3 children, 4 children. So I'm like, I got to figure out.
Also, great content though.
Yeah. Also, oh man, I'm very excited for that.
Dangerous content.
So like the storage unit, like it came across, I saw it, I got it sent to me, and then I'm in storage units right now for the couches, like actively still. But then I love multifamilies, So I'm like split in this. I love car washes.
Well, car washes have another huge advantage.
And
that will be for our next podcast.
Yeah, we have to. So where
that's the radio team.
Yeah, see that is. We're talking to an actual professional here, folks. This is not this bozo over here. Where can everyone find you both, especially if they want to get in touch with you on H1H2?
H1H2Capital.com. Joey R. Dags is me. I think it's MikeyV on air. Is that right? On Instagram, obviously we're on LinkedIn and everywhere else, but typically the website is the best way to find us. I did have one question for you though before we go, because I saw another podcast where they asked this question, and you've probably heard it before, but I love how people answer it. You were a journey or a destination guy?
Ooh. It's interesting. I think that question ages. Like, I've really thought about this because every time I hear the answer to that question, it's from a Gary V, Grant,
Kevin.
Yeah.
It puts you in that world.
Yeah, there we go. But it's like, I think at 28, you're hyper focused on the destination. Where am I going? But I think in hindsight, when I'm to Gary's 48, looking back, it was all about the journey. It's always been about the journey.
Yeah.
But I think it's funny. Like, I think right now, I really, really, especially like post wedding, being able to talk to folks like you, dealing with social. Like, I thoroughly love each individual day. So the answer would be the journey for sure. Like, I love the journey. Yeah. But I think there's something to be said too of like definitely setting your goals on some sort of North Star, to follow.
Can I give you an answer that I heard?
Please.
That like set me off a little bit. I was like, whoa, that one got me a little bit good. But the question was posed, obviously, journey or destination. And the gentleman paused and he says, neither. He goes, people. It's just the people. So whether you're on the journey, whether you get to the destination, it's always the people.
Right.
Like you get to the destination, and maybe that's, I don't know, you make $10 million. You don't have the people.
Right.
What good is it? If you're going on the destination, it's really hard. Like the entrepreneur journey is always incredibly lonely sometimes. You got to surround yourself with really good people to keep you going. I mean, Mike and I, like we were talking last night, like the ups and downs of owning a business are incredibly difficult. But if you don't have the right people, it doesn't make any sense. So I heard that, and I'm also a journey guy. I do want to get to that destination. I want to get there sooner rather than later.
Right.
Just had she's 7 months now. But,
oh, wow.
So I just have a little one, but like I want to spend more time with her, and it's tough because she's at the house and you don't get to like be there with her. But I'm with you on the journey. Like if I had to pick one or the other, it's the journey. But I thought the people was really interesting. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Well, no, I think that's the people around in your circle are always. It's a great point. That gets rid of what I was going to say, but
Damn it.
That's a better answer. But I am 100%, and I preach this to friends and my fiance, but I'm 100% a journey person over the destination. I think the journey is going to last longer. I think if you don't enjoy the journey, then you're going to look back and be like, I should have enjoyed that journey.
Right.
And when I was in Indianapolis doing a medium market radio show, I was in such a rush to get to the major market.
Right.
And I remember, I could keep saying my brother gives me great advice, but he kept saying, slow down, enjoy it, you're going to get there. And looking back, if I could go relive a day in that Indianapolis life, I would do that because I was so stressed out about moving on.
Right.
So I think, and now I try and enjoy the journey. Even like the most stressful part of my day, I try and be like, enjoy it.
Totally.
I don't know, I just want to be like, I want to get it through my day, like, well, I learned something there, and you know what, like, this is the worst case scenario. I've already accepted that. I'm going to enjoy the moment.
Right. I love that. Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%. So we'll journey over to the next podcast.
There we go.
These two. All right. Thank you so much, both of you, for coming on. The wealth of knowledge on these two. Big brains over here. Big brain operation. Okay. Next level.
No hair, though.
So, I mean, I take some brains now and subtract some hair.
There we go.
Thank you both so much for coming on. You guys are the best.